Hi everyone, and welcome to day 4 of the Fifo Wives Tales online launch. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Today we have 4 very special guests joining us today. Monique, Shalila, Ruth and Jessie. Welcome ladies and thank you for joining us today. First up, we're going to go straight into it and we're going to go with Shalila. So welcome to the stage, Shalila. How are you today?
Good, how are you, Yasmin?
Good, I'm good. So you are one of the authors in our book. Do you want to start with telling us what the title of your chapter is, why you went with that chapter, and how long you've been in the industry, a little bit of background about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I am the My Bad Wife. So I guess the reason behind the chapter is it's because I wanted to move the light away from my partner who is FIFO and kind of look at myself and look within to see how I was impacting the relationship. So we've been together for 3 years and he's been FIFO for 2. So I do feel it was a little bit different from the conversations I was having with friends that have been in a FIFO relationship from, they don't know any different because it's been like that from the beginning. Whereas we had a full year of Nick working in Perth and working for his family business. And then we transitioned to the FIFO lifestyle. So yeah, I must say that was fun, quite interesting. Yasmin, I think you've disappeared. Oh, back again. Sorry, yes, I didn't know where to go from.
I don't know what happened just then, but all good. Where's my video?
All the fun things about live.
I didn't hear a word you said. Shall we start again?
Yes.
That's our first technical glitch though in the 4 days. So it's a good accomplishment. So but let's start again.
Sorry, yeah, I was just saying that my chapter is called The My Bad Wife. And it really talks about my own experience within the FIFO industry and I guess the experience that I had, the feelings I had, and to look within. So had to look at my own childhood traumas and all the reasons that I was getting triggered myself. So Nick has been in the FIFO industry for 2 years. We've been together for 3. And so our relationship was a little bit different. We didn't always, that's not all we knew. We had our first year with him working in his own family business, and then we transitioned to FIFO. So yeah, that was quite interesting.
Awesome. And so how does it compare to having a boyfriend working in FIFO compared to a normal 9 to 5 that comes home every night?
Yeah, so they both have pros and cons. So we were in that honeymoon phase, I guess you could say. So, still getting to know each other. We spent every single night at one of our places. I lived alone and he lived at his place with some housemates. So that was really good. But then I think we didn't have that quality time together. He was working sometimes. He was working Monday to Saturday afternoons. He'd be up before I was, so he'd be leaving at, say, his alarm would be off at maybe 4 or 5 a.m. And then he'd get back, go to the gym. By the time we spend time together, it's really only dinner and then go to bed. And then weekends as well, he worked half a day, relaxed a little bit, and then you've only really got Sundays. So, and we both got quite a few hobbies in it. So he works on his boat, works on his car. He's in his workshop, bit of a handyman. So he keeps himself quite busy. So it was really hard for him to do what he needed to do, see his family, see his friends. And then I'm also quite independent with a billion things going on. So I must say there is a lot more balance now with him being FIFO.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so what mindset do you think that couples or families or even individuals need to survive the FIFO lifestyle?
What kind of mindset? I think probably a constructive one. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but a positive one, but one where you also focus on the future and all the positives. I think if that's the decision that you're going to make, you've got to really put things in place to make it work. So yeah, I think that's what it is, rather than always focusing on the negative, which sometimes I do.
Easier to do.
Yeah, sometimes I do, but it's, you know, it's important not to sit in it and to move forward and think about all the positive things. So I think that's what you need to focus on.
So so we need a positive mindset to survive the FIFO lifestyle, but what if the negative thoughts are stronger than those positive thoughts? What do you suggest people do to get out of that dark situation?
Yeah, communication. I think we've all heard that, telling your partner. So we do talk a lot about it. You know, if so when I'm quite stressed, just say it's work or another deadline I've set on myself and I get quite stressed, I do find I do take it out on him, but it's always coming back to talking about it, being kind to each other, communicating well, all that stuff, all the hard stuff. But then also, you know, we've seen a counsellor before as well, and I think that really helps. It creates that safe space to openly talk, and then getting different tools that you can implement as well. So that's been really great for us.
Yeah. And there's no shame in seeing a therapist. They actually are helping couples. We had a lady on here yesterday saying that seeing a counsellor saved their marriage, and it's so nice to see couples putting their egos aside or their shame or their fear and being able to break through and just coming out as a better unit at the end of that.
I totally agree. And I was listening to it yesterday and I didn't even think of EAP as well. So we've seen a counsellor, and I've just never thought about using what the company has as well. Yeah, the resources are there. So I think it's really important we all reach out to use them.
Because it does get costly out of your own pocket. So it's great if they're offering it for free to make use of the resources that they are giving you. So
yeah, definitely.
For sure. So if there's one thing that you could change about FIFO though, what do you think that would be?
Personally for me, I would really love to go to site. I think, you know, it's, you know, we hear about it, we might see pictures, and that's really, I feel like people at home, that's really all that they're limited to. I know relationships, whether, you know, both couples have worked on site, they have a better understanding. But for people that don't, I think it's a way of kind of including us into it. So we kind of, all right, when you're going to the mess, we kind of know what that is, or, you know, we know where you live. So I think just it not being such a, obviously this isn't going to happen often, but just say annually or something like and I've heard of family days before. So I think that kind of thing's nice. And even for kids to see where their dad flies to, I think that would also make it easier to understand as well. They can see where, you know, dad's going and understand a little bit better.
Yeah, and so when my husband went to, that sounds weird, when Boris was working away, he would be telling me all these little things like wet mess and whatever, and I'm thinking, wet mess, that sounds disgusting, who's going to clean that up? Like such a mom, like wet mess, who's going to clean that up? But it'd be great for the kids to go there and then, you know, see where dad eats or see where dad works, see dad's friends, because when we FaceTime him, dad, the kids are always like, especially the youngest one, can I see your friends? Can I see your friends? So they'll jump on FaceTime. So it would be fun for them to see whose dad's friends are when he goes away, and it just makes everyone more connected. And it's a big family out there, and they're our extended family. So yeah, it would be great for that to happen more often, the family days. But the logistics wise, and it would just get too messy.
But I think that's a really interesting point as well, seeing who, you know, the team is. So even if it's like here in Perth, having some kind of event where everyone can meet, so you know who those people are that they're talking. You know, I know at my work we, you know, have events every now and then, but yes, we're supporting our customers, so it might be an opening night or something, but partners are allowed, and that's the opportunity where the partner can come and meet, you know, everyone that you work with. So I think that would be really nice.
Yeah, that's fun. Well, let's plan it. Let's organize. So if you could tell your, I guess, future self how this FIFO chapter is going to end for you, what do you think you see?
What do I see at the end of this?
How does this end for you?
Depending on what day
staying in FIFO forever.
I think the type of person Nick is, I don't know, it's definitely got its benefits. I think having that time freedom, during the day to do whatever he chooses to do, I think that's really special. But I do think, if and when we have kids, I think he'll want to be around. Actually, I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
You can think about it and message me later.
Yeah.
Think of your exit plan.
Yes.
I ask that because a lot of people say, we're going to do this for 10 years and then we've saved up enough money to buy the house, travel, etc., etc. So, and that's what helps get the family through the FIFO journey. But some people don't have plans, and especially if there's no kids and they're just a young couple and just living their best life, traveling. Like Taryn, she was saying they were both working for FIFO and they were just like splurging and living the best life as possible without the kids. And then kids came along and it kind of switched everything up, which she's still getting through it and she's still enjoying it, but it changes the narrative quite a lot.
I bet, with kids involved.
Yeah, but awesome. Thanks so much for chatting with us today, and thank you for your story in our book as well.
No worries. Thanks, Yas.
Thank you. Next up, we're going to invite Monique to the stage. Hi, Monique.
Hello.
Hello, welcome. How's the baby going? Did he settle?
Yes.
Yes, cute. Okay, well, tell us a little bit about yourself, the name of the chapter in the book that you wrote, and how long you've been in the FIFO industry for.
So my name's Monique. My chapter was A Beautifully Chaotic Wife. I've been in the industry on and off for 10 years, and my husband's been in the industry for 16 years, so 26 years between the two of us. Yeah.
That's a lifetime.
Yeah, it's long enough. We recently both stopped FIFO, so we've made that transition to Perth Life.
Okay, awesome. So how long ago was that? After the baby?
It's been about 1.5 years now. So yeah, it's been a bit challenging, I'm not going to lie. I think there's definitely things I miss about the FIFO lifestyle. And Calvin's now working, 6 days a week with 1 day off. So I definitely miss that week or 2 weeks off of that quality time that you get with FIFO. But it is, I have to admit, it's really wonderful to have him home every night.
Yeah, especially with a newborn. Well, not so new anymore, but still at that fresh stage.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah. So you've both worked away together and you both worked separately as well. Can you tell us a bit more about that dynamic and how did that work for you in terms of taking care of your eldest stepson? How did that work? Because I know you were on different swings. So did you miss each other? How many days did you have before you swapped rosters?
Yeah. So before we had Kaimani, we used to do 6 weeks apart from each other and 1 week together. So that was quite challenging. We'd kind of be like ships in the night because we were both on the same site but on different rosters. So often I would fly in and give him the car keys at the airport and he would fly out. Wow. So, and we did that for, 6 weeks, and then we'd have 1 week together on site and 1 week at home together. And then I took a year off to look after Kaimani, and Calvin stayed working away. And the transition, I think, for the two of us was quite challenging. Yeah. And then we decided to swap. and Calvin became a stay-at-home dad. I went back to Fifo, and I think, and I wrote about this in my chapter of, we don't really know what it's like for the other party until we've done it ourselves. And I don't think Calvin really understood how challenging it was to be a parent at home until he was able to do it himself. And I guess a lot of, Fifo wives don't have that luxury where they get to go to work and the guy gets to
watch
stay
this.
home.
Yeah.
And I think, kind of like a lot of the guys on site said to Calvin, it's just, it's going to be Netflix and chill and beers all day. And it's so not like that at all. But I guess until you actually do it yourself, you don't, you don't know. So, and I guess that's the great thing about Fifo is it's allowed both of us to take turns in being that, or taking that parenting role. So, it's had its really great things and challenging things too. Being away is hard for both. Yeah.
For both, yeah. So you both have been away. So how did you decide who was going to stay home? So first, because you stayed home first, how did you guys come to that agreement?
I was already studying part-time because I'm extremely passionate about Fifo mental health. So I decided at that point that I would take a year off and pursue my studies full-time while looking after our son. Yeah. So that's how we came to that conclusion. But then after a year, I was kind of like, oh no, I need to go back to work.
Yeah. So were you still studying when you went back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
Still studying. I've been studying part-time while working away for quite a few years now. Yeah.
So do you study on site? Because my husband, he was doing that as well. When he's working offshore, he'll do his 12-hour shift and then he'll smash out his essays or assignments, whatever he needed to, and then snuck in a little 10, 15 minutes for the girls on the phone. But how did you find balancing work, study, and home life while away?
That one I think is quite challenging. So I'm a real early bird. So I would get up at about 3, study for about 2 hours before work a 12-hour shift. And then on shift changes, I would spend most of my shift changes studying. But I guess for when I came home, I would try and have set days aside for uni. And I often would say this to Calvin, it's just 13 weeks. And then at that end of that 13 weeks, we just got to make it through the 13 weeks, of studying really hard, being really sleep deprived, getting through the exams. He'll make me endless cups of tea and put up with me when I'm really cranky and is extremely supportive, which is what you really need when you're trying to juggle everything, and would, I guess, try and support me and take as much of the load off me at home as he could. Yeah. But I'm a real scheduler, so I will schedule in time to study, and he's extremely supportive of me, so that is helpful. Yeah,
that is really helpful, and it's really important that you have a partner that supports you and vice versa. So what are tips from you who's obviously acing it? What are some tips about caring for each other while the other person is away?
I think just thank you for saying I'm acing it.
You are.
Like that. I'll be honest, some days it doesn't feel
I know,
like that.
But yeah, it's
but I think it is just, just doing those thoughtful things for each other that, the other person, let the other person know you're thinking of them. Like, I don't know, when Calvin used to go to site, I used to pack him little treats in his bag and little notes and things, or they were having a shutdown, I would bake a whole bunch of cookies and that for the crew so that they've got something nice, because shutdowns are horrible.
Yeah.
So trying to do things like that, and I guess I found doing things together as a team, because even when you come home from site and you're tired, the other person's really tired too, and they need a break. So being able to do things together as a team and saying, okay, I can tell you're tired, you go have a break, I'm going to pick up tonight's slack, or vice versa, or doing it together and going, all right, we're both going to cook dinner and then we're both going to relax.
Yeah.
So
really just being aware of the situation that you're in and reading each other's body to see, okay, you look really tired, I'm not as tired as you, let me do the cooking tonight. Just take turns, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you're both struggling, just saying, all right, let's do it together and tackle it as a team. Yeah, because sometimes, you know, I think both parties struggle, and both, like, I remember coming off night shift after doing night shift for 2 weeks, and trying to be a normal human being would be a real struggle, you know, to do if you're back in a routine, you know.
Yeah, because you have to adjust and everything like that. So what do you guys do then now, or I guess before the baby, because I know he takes up a lot of your time for now, but what did you guys like to do as a couple for like couple time? Obviously there's naughty stuff because that's how little baby came along, but other than that.
We both love the beach, so we both love to go free diving, so that's something that we both enjoy, and I just love being on the beach. I find the water's something that's very calming for me, and we also both ride dirt bikes. Have to say I haven't gotten mine in quite some time for obvious reasons, but we both used to love a bit of adrenaline seeking, and riding our dirt bikes together was a lot of fun. Yeah. And awesome. I think for things like, we also have a shared love of cooking, so that's a nice thing to do together, try new recipes.
Who's the better cook?
Oh, Calvin by far. I'm terrible cook. I'm the desserts lady.
Okay. That's a good matchup.
Yeah, so he does the main meals, I do desserts. Biscuits are my specialty. I love making biscuits.
I'm obsessed with those crescent biscuits with the icing sugar. Next time I see you, make me some, please.
Okay. I can do that.
So you're currently studying psychology and counselling, yeah?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm doing a double degree.
Yeah. So what do you think the long-term goals should be for the people working in the FIFO industry, and how do they need help on the mental front side?
For people specifically, I guess, who work within FIFO, I think it's important that each person has their own kind of plan, because it is different for different people. Some people want to spend, you know, a certain amount of time in the industry, others that's their career choice and they want to do it as a long-term goal forever. So I think having set ideas of goals of where you want to be at, and really looking at not just your own mental health, but the mental health of your family as well. So I think some families really struggle when a person is away, and it's about making that lifestyle work for you. And if it's not working, then getting that extra support. But I feel for like FIFO companies, when you employ someone, you're employing not just them, or shouldn't just be looking after them maybe, but also their financial well-being, their physical well-being, and their family's well-being at home too. Because if people are on site and they're worried about their family, or things aren't working out too well, they're not going to be focused on the job, and there's going to be that loss of productivity. So I guess what I would like to see in the FIFO employment arena or companies is them better supporting the whole family unit, not just the worker, but the whole family.
Yeah, because it's a roll-on effect.
It is. It's a massive roll-on effect. And, you know, if the person on site struggling with problems at home, they're not going to be focused on what they're doing, which can lead to, you know, injuries and production loss and things like that. And I've seen it firsthand on site when things go wrong and people have mental health breakdowns and that, and it's really, it's horrific to witness. I don't think, unless you've been in the industry, I don't think a lot of people get to see that.
Yeah.
They don't see that really ugly side of what it can be like. And you know, FIFO is not all bad. I really love FIFO. I actually love it. It's you know, something that suits me, but it isn't for everyone. And if things aren't going so great at home, it really affects people while they're away.
I guess it like highlights it more because you are isolated. So the only thing you can do is be with your thoughts. And when your thoughts aren't positive, or there's a lot that you're going through and you're away from that person or away from that problem, it's harder to solve. So it definitely makes you ponder on it more, and it just escalates in your head to probably something bigger than what it really is.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. Definitely. Yeah. It's not just for the people who are isolated on site, but the families, I guess, that are isolated at home too. Not all families have got lots of support around them. And even if they do have support, sometimes those support networks don't understand what it's like to work FIFO, or how that lifestyle works, so can be insensitive.
Yeah. And I guess like the 12-hour shift, you can't really communicate because you're working.
Yeah.
So it's even more abandonment issues that people are facing when it comes to that. So would you be returning to FIFO, do you think, in the future, or are we happy staying at home?
I think I've got mixed feelings on it.
Yeah.
I would love to go back to FIFO. Husband's not so sure if he would like me to go back to FIFO. He's not too sure about how he feels about being a stay-at-home dad again. So,
but the baby's so young, he won't talk back yet.
This is true. And it really would be snuggles on the couch and Netflix and chill.
Yeah.
I would like to return to FIFO, but in a different role to previously of what I've worked. So I think if I would return to FIFO, I would like to return working as a registered psych, to be caring for mental health in the FIFO industry. That's my long-term goals with my studies, is to support FIFO workers and their families, whatever their goals and things that come up for them or issues that arise. I would love to support them because, you know, I love FIFO. I think it's amazing, but it doesn't take away that it is challenging, and sometimes we need that extra bit of support. And I think unless you've worked FIFO or you've been a, you know, person at home on the other side of it, and I've done both, you know, and so has my husband. I can see it from both sides, and I really want to be able to support families and support workers in that mental health sort of arena.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for your chapter in our story, which was a beautiful read.
Thanks, Yasmin.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Jessica, if you're there, Jessica will be joining.
Hello.
There you are. Hi, welcome.
Hey.
Let's start with, okay, I'll just tell everyone your name. So your name is Jessica. How long have you been in the industry and what you do for work? Because you're obviously on site now. So you're the, are you in a relationship at the moment? Are you a partner or single? Is that rude to ask? I don't know if that's rude to ask.
Yeah, I'm single at the moment. Yeah, so my role is the health and wellness coordinator here on site. So yeah, I'm kind of in charge of people's, I guess, mental health and physical health. So yeah, work in the gym and also running all the social events as well.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I asked about your relationship status because previously we've been talking to mostly wives in the industry, and we're talking to the wives that are stay at home or the wives that are working. So you being in the industry as a single person, do you think it's easier to do FIFO life as a single person as opposed to someone with a family or partner at home?
Yeah, I think 100% it's a lot easier. Both my parents are FIFO, and so is my sister's husband, actually. Yeah, I guess watching the dynamics in their relationships and in their lives, it's 100% more easier for me. I only have to worry about myself, where I go, how I get here, all of that type of stuff, whereas like my sister has a 1-year-old baby and her husband works FIFO, and then, you know, when I'm on my break, I'm trying to help her, and it, you know, could be quite stressful for her.
Yeah.
She doesn't have that, you know, and then when he's coming home, he's not having that downtime as well, you know.
Yeah, so it's a juggle. So do you find it
Yeah.
and you can say I'm not answering, but do you find it hard to date while you're working FIFO? Like to find time to go and...
Yeah, and then I think especially being at the, you know, I'm kind of in my late 20s now, but just kind of our year that we're kind of born into anyway, it's all dating kind of online. So then trying to meet up with people when you're like, oh, well, I'm away, and then, you know, other people that I'm trying to meet up with, a lot of them are actually FIFO, because then you end up matching with other FIFO people. You know, it's trying to, if you're not on the same swing, it's like, well, okay, we're just not going to be able to go for, you know, keep going with it, because it's not going to work, you know? Yeah.
Okay, we'll steer off topic. We were not even going to talk about dating, but we just kind of went there. But so you are in physical health. So how important is physical well-being compared to mental well-being on site? Do you think they're equally as important, or should one be more focused on than the other?
I think they're probably just as equal. I think they kind of go like hand in hand. The most people that I found have had the most kind of mental health, I guess, issues have been a lot of the people that are in that kind of admin role, or the trucks and stuff like that, that are very sedentary kind of in their jobs. You know, they're sitting there for 12 hours, you know, doing not very much, pretty much. Especially a lot of people that are you know, doing the trucks and stuff like that, they're very isolated and stuff like that. So yeah, I find they struggle the most. And then a lot of the admin people as well, they're 12 hours sitting in the office trying to do that type of stuff. They're not as hands-on as, you know, some of the electricians or the fitters and stuff like that, that are around people and can, you know, openly speak to, you know, their mates that are around and stuff like that.
Yeah. So what is your roster?
My roster is 8 days on, 6 days off. So I actually have it quite good, which is really nice. Yeah, I know a lot of people, most people are, you know, 2 weeks on, 1 week on off. But yeah, I feel like with our role, because we are so much about living a healthy and balanced life, they've given our role that kind of roster to help us. You know, we got to represent what we preach pretty much. So yeah,
that's a good roster. So what would a typical day look like on site for you? How do you start, and how many people do you see a day? Do you only see people that are just like newly injured, or are you following up every day, or what does your role involve?
Okay, so so I work an 11-hour day. So normally I start at about 6:45, 7 o'clock. So I'm normally up and train myself. So I'm normally up at about 4:30, and I go to the gym and train myself first. And then at 7 we have pre-start in the office, and then I'm normally pretty much straight into checking emails, and then like tidying the gym, checking everything's fine, because the gym is 24/7. Got to make sure that everything's fine. From a lot of people, you're training overnight and stuff like that. So that normally takes about 2 to 3 hours. And then in between, then you're fitting in PT sessions with especially like the night crew. Then they'll come in throughout the day once they've had a sleep, and they do one-on-one PT or asking for like nutrition advice and stuff like that.
And is that a complimentary service?
Yes, yep. So everyone can get that. So a lot of our PT is for people that are already kind of on site. So like a lot of the chefs, they'll come in their lunch break. The admin girls on their lunch break, they'll come in and do PT and stuff like that. And then throughout the day, you're organizing events for like shift change and stuff like that. So we'll organize, like one's coming out with Halloween, so then we'll organize like a Halloween. November is going to be like a Movember event and that type of stuff. So there's kind of always just little things to do throughout the day.
Oh, that's exciting. That sounds like a cool job.
Yeah, and then at the end of the day, once everyone's finished, they normally get back at about 6, and then we're teaching classes till about 8 p.m.
And what kind of classes do you teach?
So every day is different. So like a Monday will be a strength, the next day will be more like a hit, and then I'm a yoga teacher as well, so then I normally always teach a yoga class on the Sunday at the end of the week kind of thing. Yeah, then we just try and chop and change it depending on what people are after, pretty much.
Yep. And so do you find that females or males are more likely to join these classes or make use of the gym?
It's kind of a mix. There is it's a lot more males, I would say, because we have like a weights gym and then more like a cardio. We have like 2 separate ones. So yeah, there is a lot of males that are in there using a lot of the weights and stuff like that. But yeah, it kind of seems to be a balance between the two. I haven't really found that it's been like a big majority of males or, you know, females kind of thing. I've always found it to be quite normal since I started. I never felt like, oh, I'm, you know, the only female here. There's majority is half-ish.
Yeah, that's great. So what do you think, like, do you have any tips to give people that are working away to stay physically healthy while on site, and then when they come back home, what could they do at home as well so they don't kind of fall out of their good routine that they've started on site?
I would definitely say try and find someone that's going to keep you accountable. So like that's what our job is, you know, here, especially if you know, want to do PT and stuff like that. That's why I say to a lot of the people that come in, I'm like, you know, if you find it really hard to even get here, then don't train by yourself, you know, get one of us to help you, and then you have someone that's going, okay, I'll see you tomorrow, I'll see you in the next couple of days, and that can give you a structured program so that you are knowing what you're doing and you're not walking around going, you know, what am I meant to be doing and stuff like that. Yeah, and then I guess for like I know a lot of people find that they train more when they're up here, and then when they go home that's their kind of rest, and they'll train every other couple of days kind of thing. So I try and just speak to them about what would work for them in their life balance, and then just giving them small goals, I guess, on you know, like, so when I'm up here I try and train every 3 days and then have a rest day, and I know that that's how my body's going to feel, and trying to work that out with them.
Yeah, so any tips on staying motivated when they are back home? Because like you said, a lot of people tend to kind of drop off on that routine. I guess you have to catch up with people, and there's lots of other things to do. So what do you think do to encourage people to stay motivated when they do come back?
I guess kind of I always try and give people like small goals, and especially for me, like I train in CrossFit, so I have competitions that come up, so that kind of gives me small goals to know why I'm doing it and to stay motivated. So yeah, I try and find little things with them so that they can, you know, when they are not feeling motivated and stuff like that, to be like, oh, okay, this is why I'm doing it, and these are the benefits from it, and seeing it from that kind of point of view.
Yeah. And so do you think the food on site supports healthy living, healthy eating? Are they nutritious? I've heard stories, I've heard horror stories, I've heard okay stories.
I think I think it's great, because I mean, like, you wouldn't, you know, when you're at home, you don't have, you know, every type of meal
and a dessert.
So I think and stuff like that. So I think like like for me, I'm pretty, like I'm a vegetarian, and I definitely find it hard, and I bring up a lot of my own food because I know that they're not going to have beans or tofu or tempeh or anything like that for anyone that's gluten-free or vegan or anything like that. So from that point of view, I think that they should have a lot more, especially vegetarian or vegan options, or even gluten-free. Like there's nothing that's gluten-free, so there's nothing that I can really eat. Yeah, but I mean, like they have heaps of salads and stuff like that. I think the variety and stuff needs to change. And then like you would like to say, yeah, not to have all the ice creams and the pizzas and the pies there, but I mean, they can't really take it away because, yeah, like you got to give people balance. But I think it just comes back to them having the discipline to not eat it, you know. It's there, but you got to, yeah, I guess find a reason to not have it.
It's probably one reason I couldn't do FIFO.
Yeah, because you just got to walk past. Yeah, so, it is hard when it's just there for free.
I know. Yeah, as soon as I see dessert, even when you're full, you just always have room for dessert, don't you? It's like a different stomach.
Yeah.
So you always have room for dessert. So we've spoken about the physical health in FIFO. What do you think we can do to help support the mental health? Is there any tips you can give? Maybe every day, what do you do to keep your mental health, stay sane every day while you're away, or even when you're back? Any tips you can give people?
I think it's just supporting people a lot more. Your earring just blew.
Yeah.
I think being a little bit more open with like talking to people. Like I know we have to fill in a thing to be like when you know, when we come back onto site, and to say like, you know, do you want to talk to your supervisor? Has anything kind of happened? But sometimes I feel like people aren't actually there to listen and to be open. So I think yeah, especially like supervisors or managers can be a little bit more open to listening and asking people how they are. Like we've just got a new site manager, and even that has just been so nice, just walking into the office and him being like, how did you sleep? You know, how are you feeling? Just those little questions actually do go a long way in helping people's, you know, even just brighten their day a little bit.
Yeah, that's nice. That's good to hear. Again, you do hear horror stories about people not being supportive in that way. So that's good to hear that it starts from the top, and how they treat you, it just all comes down. So it gives a good feeling for workers as well. If you're treated badly, then you're not going to have a positive or a high functioning productivity for that day, are you? So yeah, no, that's great. Is there anything else you want to add for the kind people out there?
No, I think that should be fine.
Yep. All good. I know you have a class to get to, so we'll let you go. But thanks so much for joining us.
Thank
and
you.
hope you had fun chatting to you. Bye.
Bye. Yeah.
Okay, so we're just waiting for Ruth to come on. So if Monique and Shalala, you want to unmute yourself so we can just have a little trio chat together, like we did in Margaret River. And just with Ruth, so if you just want to go to the other link that you had, so we can add you to the panelists, because I think you're currently in the guest link, and we can chat to you from there. So girls, what's happening?
I think what you were saying before about how it starts from the top down, it is so important. I agree with that 100%. It's for managers just to be open and supporting their workers, and when you feel that support, then you're willing to work hard, you know.
Because they set the tone, don't they? And it's the 100%. Same as parenting as well. If you're going to be a meanie bum, your children are going to be meanies too. So you set the tone and be a good role model.
Yeah, that's it. Lead by example. Lead from the front and by example. Yeah,
exactly. So welcome back, Ruth.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes, all good. So Ruth is currently chiming through to us from France, live and direct from France. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yep. How is the weather there?
So it's just going into autumn. We've had a beautiful couple of weeks, quite warm for the season, very sunny, and we have made the most of it. So.
Well, you look nice and tanned. You look glowing.
I know. I was in the sun yesterday. I keep forgetting to put blockout on because it's actually quite mild, but maybe these are nerves coming out as well.
No, don't be nervous. You're good at talking. I see your Facebook all the time, and you're giving out great captions and advice. You're very good at speaking. So let's jump straight into it. You are one of the authors in our book, which I haven't shown yet tonight, the Fifo Wives Tales. You haven't grabbed a copy yet. Be sure to grab one. Ruth's chapter is the stead, I think, if I remember correctly.
That is
so do you
correct,
want to chat to us a little bit more about your chapter and why you chose that title for yourself?
So we went into the mining industry, or my husband did, in 1990. Wow. And I didn't know anyone else who was in the mining industry. Like none of my friends, none of my family were in the mining industry. And initially it was a 5-year plan to just earn enough money to whatever. I've forgotten what the goal was, probably, build a house.
Yeah.
And even though Terry did step out of the mining industry from time to time to see if he could work, closer to home, it did lead him back all the time because his qualifications were in mining and none of the other jobs he could get away from the mining industry appreciated, like was paid in the same way for starters, but also his skills weren't used. So he kept going back, and therefore Steadfast was he was in the mining industry for 30 years. Hopefully he's done with it now, but it is nice to have it as an option to go back. It's like a safety net. Yeah. And, even if it's just for shorter spurts.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I really enjoyed your story. It's a great insight to see how the mining industry was in the beginning, because everyone's used to it now and everyone knows exactly how it works. But you went into it when it wasn't even really a thing back then, was it? It was all fresh and new, and you had to navigate through that without having a roadmap like the rest of us do. There was no support unit, and you were by yourself in the middle of nowhere on that big block of land that you had.
Yeah. So, isolation was a real thing because socially it wasn't as common. And distance, neither of us had family close by, and so there was isolating factors in many ways. And even the people we did have in our social networks didn't really get what it was to be a fly in fly out couple. And I'm sure, the mining industry has been around a long time in Australia, but now it's a lot more spoken about. It's, Fifo is a term, where at that time, people would still question, like the most asked question I would have had was, when's your husband back, for starters? And then how can you do that? How can you live like that?
Yeah. And now everyone knows somebody that's in the industry. It's so common, especially in Australia. So in your chapter, I really liked the tip that you gave about giving him time to adjust when he came home. What do you mean by that, and why is that so important, do you think?
Yeah, good question. So for us, and it's really good to hear how other couples and women, and you've opened that up a lot, how the experience is very similar. So for us, it was about urgency with, when he was away for 2 weeks, I was on a hobby farm and I just couldn't do everything. So there was always urgent jobs when he came home. And I would have a list of, things that needed to get done.
We all do.
But, yeah, I know. But, they were kind of, the fence is broken or the water's not working and urgent type things.
Yeah.
But, that doesn't make them more or less important. But what I've learned was that if I just gave him time, and then once he was ready, he'd come and say, so where's my list?
Yeah.
So it would take anywhere between 12 hours to 24 hours. It was just more of a mindset for him to get his head around, okay, now I'm back home and I've got different responsibilities. And once I've learned that, it was really valuable because I knew he would get to the tasks or the list, and he knew he had, it was an option for him. So he had time, and when he was ready, he could come forward. Before that, it was often a source of conflict.
Yeah. So he appreciated that you understood that he needed just a little bit of a breather just to get back to reality, really, because he's been away working. So how did the kids react?
Yeah, it was for me. Sorry, I'll just clarify that it was for me, yes, to understand, but also for him to have that that break, that adjustment time. So it's, you know, it's a respectful for him, self-respect, I'm saying here, as well as, you know, respect for the spouse.
Yeah. So how did the children deal with him going away and coming back? Did they ever cry, or did they just became used to it?
I think you know, the children experience is very similar for all of us. So, you know, very much about crying when he's leaving. It was always an adjustment time, and I would, you know, compensate to make those adjustments when he left. Yeah. And then I heard one of the ladies say that, you know, when they were in trouble, they would miss Dad, and, you know, the discipliner, which was me, would be in bad books, or, you know, and so that's very real, because even you know, as adults, I think they still see Dad as the fun guy, and me as the nagging.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad, but, you know, in order to keep some sort of routine, some sort of order in the household, because the switch affects everyone. It's not just, you know, the spouse that goes to work. Those who stay at home do also adjust. And so, yeah, it's a constant adjustment
for everyone involved.
Yeah.
So what would you, do you have any
sorry. The kids did, I'd had to think where my thread was. And so, yeah, the children did, they were affected. And depending on their ages, because they kind of grew up with it. My two youngest were born while Dad was a Fifo worker. My oldest, he was not even 2. So they all never knew any different. But the adjustments were still real, and the way they dealt with it changed over their growing up years.
Yeah. And so you also, and if you don't want to chat about this, we can move on, but in your story, you talked about a tragedy that you had with your child. How do you think that the support is there for women that are going through this, not necessarily just in FIFO, but do you think there's enough support within our system that are there for women?
Sorry, with the miscarriage, was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. I think it's still a bit of a taboo.
Yeah.
And I thought Terry's work was very good when it happened. They sent him home as quickly as they could get a plane, and he did get a couple of extra days. So he was really supported there. For women, I think it's still very much an internal process to work through a miscarriage. And I honestly don't know how much support there is out there now, but I think it's a lot better handled.
Yeah. So in our book, we had a lot of other women speak about similar situations to yours. Do you have any, breathing tips, or any tips that you could give other women going through the same thing on how to process their feelings, or how to help heal their bodies, their minds? Even the couples I hear, when they go through a tragedy like that, they kind of drift apart because they don't really know how to communicate to each other about that. Is there any tips or suggestions that you could give to help other families going through the same thing as you did?
It's a good question. It's probably a very large question.
Yeah.
And I think you know, depending on your background and situation, we all deal with those kind of losses differently, but there are similarities. Of, for example, you know, the hormonal changes, the joy of being pregnant, you know, the sadness of loss, but also the body's adjustment going through the hormonal changes throughout the process. And, you know, the communication is as good as you have established it before tragedy happens. You know, if your communication wasn't open and honest before a tragedy happens, that is not the time to correct it. Yeah. So I guess my tip is to learn to communicate well, so that when difficult situations arise, that is already in place. I guess that's my best tip. I know sometimes we think we communicate well until something happens. But yeah, and there's so much help out there now. So if, you know, if a party or a spouse or a partner feels like they're not able to communicate well, there's so much help out there now to, you know, to correct that. So I just encourage people to take that help, to, you know, make those corrections.
Yeah, and just have open communication and don't shut anyone out, especially when they're trying to help you. I think that's what we tend to do, is whenever we're going through stuff, we want to deal with it on our own and fix ourselves, and we think that we don't need anyone's help, but we probably should be more accepting of help than what we think we are as independent, strong women.
Yeah, and just even have one person, one listening, you know, friend helps heaps, because we don't, I mean, most of us don't like to trumpet around when we don't do so well, but having one good listening person is really helpful. Yeah, other than your spouse, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So what is one overall tip that you have to give families out there to survive the FIFO lifestyle?
I think what I learned is to make time for the couple. So yes, the children are very much important, but it is really important that as a couple, you take the time to, communicate for sure, but have fun, you know, have fun together, go on dates, and just have, you know, a segment of your time together where you can just communicate, where you can get to know each other, where you can connect. I think that's really important.
Yeah, exactly. Because I've had a couple of people message me since the book came out saying, this book has been really relatable. It's really helped me and my partner get through struggles that we're going through. Since we've had kids, we've been really disconnected with each other, but it's taught me to go back and reprioritize everything and remember that we were a couple first before we had the kids. So we need to get back to that. And when the kids see us happy, the kids are happy. And again, it's a roll-on effect, like from the hierarchy before we were talking about. It's the same dynamic in the family. So that's very important to stay connected with your partner.
You know, it's important for any couple, but because in a FIFO situation, your time together is condensed, if you like, or torn apart even, you know, whatever, however you want to see that, it's even more so important, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that is 6 o'clock. That hour has flown by. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me tonight. And everyone else that is watching, thank you again for watching us during this, the past 4 days. It's been super fun. It's all going to be on our Facebook and YouTube as well, so you can come back and watch it again. You can watch it every day so you can see our faces. But thank you again so much, everyone. And